Hello, this is Berrin from Ragic. Today I'm going to speak about creating reports in third-party software tools in Ragic. Basically, we do have some sheets that we're going to be working on, and then some basic data, and then we're going to go and import this into Google Sheets, and we're possibly going to have a little bit time to talk about Zapier and the tools available there. So if you guys are using any type of graphing tools or software, you can let me know as well, and we'll see if we can experiment with that as well. Today is going to be really simple. We're going to talk about reporting and how you want to envision reports in your database, and I created a demo account with all mock data so we can talk on like something that has meaning. Alright, so we do have a little bit more time before we start, so if you have questions about the topic or the reports or whatnot, you can always ask me through the live chat, and you need to be logged into YouTube to be able to write into there. So the live chat is either on the right side of your screen, or if your screen is smaller, if your monitor or resolution is smaller, then the live chat will be right below the video on the right side. Again, you need to be able to log into YouTube to be able to write anything to me, but I will get to your questions as soon as I can. And today's topic is a bit short. It's about just entering data from Ragic into importing into other software and how we can do that. So there are a few ways of viewing your data from other software. Some are very technical, some are pretty much straightforward and simpler, and we're going to go the simpler route today. So if you have technical questions, you can still write on the live chat, but I might not be able to answer if you're asking about APIs and whatnot, or just programming type of things, but those are also possible. If you do have questions about that, you can still write on the live chat, but you can also email support@ragic.com, which I would recommend doing. So I will write our customer support email again. It's support@ragic.com. If you think you have questions after this webinar, you can always email me through there again. Again, my name is Berrin. I've been doing webinars for Ragic for the past 2 years, and it's been nice, and we are trying to improve our software as well. So if you have any suggestions, we always like to listen to those. Alright, I guess it's time to start. Alright, so to talk a little bit briefly about my database that I created over here, I created a sales database again for our mock data because that's the most straightforward, and it's quite simple to understand. So we have a list of clients on this sheet. So we're currently on the clients sheet, and we have some basic data about them. I included the first name and the last name, and then the phone, email address, state, and city, because I want to be able to analyze what they're buying through state and city. Alright, so we have this basic client data, and we have some basic product info as well. And that I just included the price and their categories. So I have a bunch of products in a few different categories. So I added these categories so that we can actually analyze by category if we want to. And then if we go back to the listing page, you'll see I added a bunch of different products for each category. So pretty straightforward, and they all have a price. Some of them are stupid expensive, some of them are stupid cheap, but doesn't matter, right? Alright, so I created a sales order sheet for new users in Ragic. Creating the sales order sheet, I used link and load, which is a type of linking. So I'm actually grabbing the client data from my client's sheet that I just showed. So basically I'm selecting a client's ID over here, and their full name and the related phone, email address, state, and city info are being populated from their client sheet. So if I hover on this client ID, you'll see that it shows their listing within the client sheet. So I don't know if you all who are watching are newer users or not, Can you write to me on the live chat? Because I want to make sure that we're all understanding each other and are on the same level of understanding. So if you do not know what link and load is, I will briefly and quickly explain what that is. But basically, yeah, I'm selecting a client ID so that I can populate all the related client info on my sales order sheet. So this data is actually coming from the client sheet. It's the same for the products over here. So I am actually grabbing the product ID and my subtable over here. The subtable is this little table inside my form, which is going to list products for me. So basically, I have the products and their name, category, and unit price are being filled from the product sheet. And the quantity is actually what I enter over here when they're purchasing something. So the client is purchasing 5 white frames over here, and the subtotal is being calculated on this sheet. So basically what I did here is add a formula, and it multiplies the unit price with the quantity, and then it gives me a subtotal of the line item. So you can see that the total of these are being tallied over here on the total, and the tax is also a formula. I'm multiplying it by the tax rate, and then I'm getting this result, and the grand total is the total of the total and tax. All right, Margaret, great to hear. So yeah, basically the client and products are being linked and loaded from their respective sheets. So I guess that concept is okay with you. All right, so the sales order is here. So what I analyze from here can only basically be the client's info, what they buy, and then like their totals, right? So if I go to the listing page, you know that we can see each sales order with their info. And I basically cannot see what line items these people are buying unless I click into their sales order sheet, which is, you know, I can't really list all the products they buy on the listing page because there may be several. There may even be like 10 different line items on their sales order form. And here I can only see the totals. So if I wanted to analyze what these people are buying, what I need to do is get the data from this subtable. Okay, so again, for newer users, the subtable is basically when we put fields side by side. It basically allows me to shift the data downwards instead of, you can see all these white parts on the design mode. So basically that is where the values of my fields are going to be displayed in. And if I have a subtable, then I can have the same category. It's basically the same fields repeating over and over again. And this subtable is expanding as I add more items. So if I open a sales order, let's actually add a new sales order. So this one was on the 6th. Let's say that somebody on the 7th bought, let's pick the somebody. Let's pick Kathleen over here. So let's say Kathleen went ahead and bought a beige couch, or maybe 2 on Sunday, and then board markers, let's buy 5 of them, and small vase, 4 of them. And you can see as I enter new data, the subtable is expanding automatically, right? The soda, 5 sodas, and whatnot. So I can actually add more, and this will expand as I go. All right. So if I save that data is stored in the subtable, and basically I want to be able to use this information too if I'm going to analyze what I'm selling. So I, in my example here, I want to figure out if certain products are doing well or certain product categories are doing well in sales, and I need to use the data that is stored in the subtable for that. So for that, I usually do another type of linking, which means that I want to display all my subtable items in one sheet. So what that means is I'm going to see Kathleen's order items, and then I'm going to also see Daniel's order items, and I'm going to see all the other order items for each of my sales orders. So to do that, we do a linking called create new sheet from subtable. So basically that sheet will show all the items that were ever ordered that were inside my subtable. All right. We're still in Ragic, by the way. The people who just joined watching, we're still in Ragic. We're kind of trying to figure out what we want to analyze right now. Okay, so I am trying to analyze all the products that I've been selling to these people within my sales orders. So I basically need this info as well as their client info and all the other related info over here, but the most important is about my products. So what I do to that is I create a new sheet from the subtable, and I already did that before the webinar, so we're gonna just go there. But basically, I'll show you how to do that. If you click on new sheet from subtable, it will allow you to select a subtable. If you have multiples, if you only have one like I do over here, then it's going to show you one subtable, and you should click this create new sheet from the subtable. And basically what we select here is the sales order number, because I want to identify where each line item was sold by the sales order later on. Okay, so if I exit from that, because I already did that step, I created a new sheet from that subtable with the sales trend information. So you can see that it is automatically populated whenever I create a new sales order. So these are the line items we selected for Kathleen just now. Basically, it's going to list all my sold products so far for every single customer that I had. For every single sales order that I had. So this is listing all the products sold, and I actually added in these from the source data. These are the ones that come from my subtable, the product ID, the name, the category, the unit price, quantity, and whatnot. And the sales order number is where this is linking to. So it's basically identifying which sales order it went to grab all these line items from. Okay, clear so far, everyone? Just let me know if I'm going too fast, because I sometimes tend to speak a little bit fast. Alright, and basically these other fields that came from my sales order sheet, I added in with the form tools and link fields from parent sheets, because it doesn't really grab the standalone fields when I generated this new sheet from the subtable. And basically what I did was just drag and drop the related info. Alright, so this is just the basic setup I have right now, and we want to be able to analyze this data. So what I can do within Ragic, I'll also talk about that, because you probably want to know what you can do within Ragic. Is you can actually analyze all the data over here. So for example, if I wanted to see how many multivitamins I sold so far, I can actually filter that. So I can filter for multivitamins, and I'll see how many times I've sold this, and I can see who bought it and the quantities of their purchase in the sales orders, right? So this is pretty straightforward filtering that you can do. Or for example, if you want to look at all of the food and drink items and how they've been doing, or what's the most popular, you can have a look over here as well. We also have something called the total and summary tool. So it's the same place. By the way, a lot of people get this confused, but the arrow, the drop down arrow on the right side of the field name is the one you're looking for. So if I want the product name, I know it's closer to the category, kind of, but it's always on the right. You can see the first field has it on the right. So when I click on this little drop down arrow, you'll see that the total and summary exists, and you can see that I have 5 times of cheeseburger orders and cheese pizza slices and whatnot over here. So right away we can notice that actually I can't really analyze the quantities of these purchases very neatly unless I do a lot of filtering and sorting over here. So if I sorted this and then I kind of have a total and summary, which I can actually see, like cheese pizza slice was ordered 2 different times, but the quantities are all different for all of these orders. So if I wanted to analyze this data, I can click the report tool if I wanted to. Margaret is asking dragged and dropped how from where. Basically, what I did was, I'll just show it from the beginning, all right? From sales orders, I want to grab the sales trend information. So I need the data for my which products were sold in what quantities, and then I want all the related information as well, such as the state and city and whatnot, because I want to be able to analyze them later on. So what I did is I clicked change design from here, and I am creating a new sheet from the subtable so that I can have all the line items in one sheet. So what I do is here, new sheet from subtable, and then I create a new sheet, right? So we went through this already, and the only fields that this creates are the ones in the subtable plus the one I selected that links back to the original sheet this subtable info comes from. So right now I have all the products being sold in all sales orders, and they're linking back with their sales order number. Okay, so I want to be able to see the state and city that these items were sold in, and I want to grab that information from the sales order sheet as well. But to do that, I'm just going to use the form tools and link fields from parent sheets, because this sheet was created from the sales orders subtable. So product sales trends, let me just rename this very quick. Trends. And then from the form tools, I'm selecting sales orders. And you can see that there are field names that were in my sales order sheet. And these are only going to be read only. So when I drag and drop them into my sheet design, I should be able to see those fields, but I won't be able to change anything because it's basically the source is the sales order sheet. It's not going to be something that I enter over here. Okay, I hope that makes it clearer. Let me just drag and drop these very quick. Let's see, what I need is the totals of the, no, I don't need the total, I need the grand total. I need the grand total of the sales order, and let's say I also want to be able to see the name of the person who ordered that order, and also, yeah, I guess that's it. So you can do this for different sheets as well if you need to. Okay, so that's what I did with the drag and drop. Hope that makes it clearer. All right, so I basically did the same thing that I already had on sales trends, so I'm going back to sales trends because I don't need both. Okay, so basically what I am seeing here is the total things that were sold, like ever, in my store. Okay, clear so far? Yeah, let me know if I'm going too fast like that, because I tend to just go off on subjects, especially if we covered them in previous webinars or if they're linking things. So today's a little bit more advanced, but I do recommend staying on and watching, because one of our newer tools that we're going to be using here is to analyze these data outside of Ragic. Okay. All right, so we've been gathering all this data in one sheet, and you can see that basically different people might order the same things, and we kind of want to analyze what quantities are being sold on like different I don't know, states. So we can actually click reports. So my thing about the reports in Ragic is they're pretty simple and straightforward, but they might not be enough sometimes. So let's just clear the sorting over here and click reports. So basically what I can do is I can generate a pivot table, I can generate the dashboard report or ranking report or whatnot over here. So let's try out a ranking report to see the percentage of products that are being sold. So right away you can see that I have a list of, like, I can change these if I wanted to. For example, I can see all the categories that's being sold, and I can see all the product names that are being sold. But this doesn't give me the products under each category and see a breakdown on each different category, right? So if I wanted to see a yellow t-shirt versus a blue t-shirt, then I will need to look them one by one on this list, and that may be a little bit, you know, non-descriptive for someone who is looking at it. There are also other reporting tools. I mean, over here we can do let's say we want to look at a pivot table this time. So in each category, let's say we want to see the products. So this one will give me numerical values on each one. So no, this is actually, yeah, 2 were being sold. So or we can have a look at the quantities, like 27 of beige couches were being sold in apparently 2 different records. So 2 people in total bought beige couches, and they bought a total of 27 couches, but that doesn't really tell me how many each person bought. It might be 20 and 7, it might be 22 and 5, right? So this doesn't really give me as much information as well, but again, these reporting tools are pretty straightforward. They are very useful in most of the cases where you want to look at a quick analysis of your data. It's not really good for generating dashboards or something similar like that. Again, we can try another reporting tool, which is the actual dashboard report. And it basically grabs all the fields in your sheet, and then you can analyze them by the quantity of records, the number of records that exist in your database, and then the quantity of that value, I think, yes. And then you can just fine tune that as well. But again, that doesn't really make much sense unless you tweak it a lot. So I can pretty much see that, like, yeah, I think I need to tweak these in order to see something that makes sense to me. Right. So this is the dashboard report in Ragic. Again, this is very useful in some cases, not in the way that I want to use it right now, though. Though I can see, like, I sold a grand total of 48,000 over here, and I had like 57 sales. Sorry, 57 line items. That's not the sales number, and the averages don't really make sense to me, so I'm removing those. But again, this isn't very descriptive if I wanted to share it with people. Okay, so that pretty much are most of the reports that I wanted to show you guys. There's also the line graph. This is pretty much similar to what we were trying to do. So we can actually analyze this as well. So you can see that food and drinks had a spike in sales in the weekend, which is May 5th, and then declined. And the total sales also peak on Friday and then declines during the week and whatnot. So yeah, this is pretty much all the reports I can generate within Ragic. And now we kind of want to move this data outside of Ragic to kind of analyze it in a way that we want to present to people. So the report tools over here, you can actually save the reports inside Ragic and then, share with your team members. But if you wanted to analyze this outside of Ragic, then you can either export the entire data that you have and then use your own tools or softwares that you have on your computer. We can export as CSV or Excel files, pretty much standard exporting your entire values with the fields over here, and you can use Excel or I think OpenTable or whatnot to analyze your data. What I'm gonna do is I want to actually publish this to the web so that I can use the data on Google Sheets. So I'm gonna import this data into Google Sheets without using the Excel or CSV version of it. I can of course upload what I exported as a CSV file into Google Sheets, but there's also another way. And also, when I do publish to the web on here, it's gonna update automatically, so Google Sheets will know when my data changes and update accordingly. So that's what I want right now. Okay, does it make sense? Okay, so one thing you should know is the way I'm doing this is making the data public, first of all, because I want to publish it to the web with our export tool over here. Okay, so basically what I needed to do for that is to set the access rate settings for everyone, which is anyone off the internet as a viewer. So anyone could view your data if you wanted to do this next step. So make sure you're not using confidential information for this, as we need to, publish this publicly so that we can read this data from other tools that we're using. Okay, so I set the everyone user rates to viewer, which means anyone can view your entries, and then exit from here. And through the listing page and tools, I'm going to click publish to the web. So this will give me links. So basically this is the link of my database sheet, and now that it's public, anyone can access it. So if I write it to you on the YouTube chat, you'll also be able to see this sheet because it is public. Okay, so I just pasted that on the YouTube chat. You can click it if you want to, and we're going to use this CSV version link. It's basically an extension .csv to this entire URL, which gives the CSV a version of this. So if I were to paste it on my address bar, it will actually allow me to download this data as a CSV. But we're not going to do that. We're going to import it directly into Google Sheets. So I'm copying this entire URL. And I actually created what I was going to show you guys later on, but we're going to do that from the top, okay? Let's go back here and create a new database sheet. Okay, so from the top, I have a blank spreadsheet and I want to analyze my sales trends. So I'll just add that as a title. And what I'm going to use here is a formula called import data. So let's write equals import data. So you can see that there are a few different ways. I think Excel also supports something like this, but basically Google Sheets. What Google Sheets does here is it imports data from a URL and .csv format if I wanted to. And you can actually import HTML and whatnot as well, but we're going to use import data for our CSV. And then I'm writing a quote, and I'm pasting that CSV URL I had by publishing to the web inside Ragic. And then I'm closing the quote and the parenthesis. And this is going to import that entire sheet. So this is pretty straightforward. It imported my data. If I added more data in my database, then it probably should refresh over here and then add the new data as well. Okay. So again, I'm writing the formula over here in the live chat. And the text inside the quotes would be your URL that you get through the publish to the web feature on Ragic. Okay, so that's the formula I used, and you can experiment with this. And what I can do is add graphs over here if I wanted to. So basically, if I wanted to add a little chart over here, it's going to give me some recommendations saying like, let's see. So I want the data from this chart. Sheet 1, column A1, I guess. No, let's just select the data first and then add a little report thing. Oh, there we go. So you can actually select different columns and see what it suggests, but we can actually add the categories and see how much sales we have done. And again, you probably are more familiar than me about like charting tools in Excel or Google Sheets or whatever tool you use. So here are some of the options. Like I can analyze the categories. I can actually add something that analyzes by category and name. Let's see what they suggest. Right, so let's see what they suggest again if I select the whole thing. So sales order number, if I wanted to add, I think the product names, I can do that as well. Or like, do I want to I guess I can customize this one. Oh, there it is. Alright, I guess this is better. Like, you can actually see how much I've been selling from each category. So this is pretty simplistic and straightforward, but I also show you a pivot table. And this is being asked a lot actually. What we're going to do is I kind of want to see all my the reason that I've been doing this is I want to see all my product names under their categories and see how much I've been selling from each of them. So to do that, I'll select the entire thing again, and then I can generate from data over here. I can create a pivot table, and if this again, I'm pretty new at this as well, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I can actually add different products under the categories with this method. So that's my rows, and I can actually add the state and cities that they've been sold in, and I can add the totals by quantity, and I can actually add the grand totals if I wanted to as well. So this is a more in-depth analysis of what we want to see so far. So I can see that in Quebec, I've been selling like 12 of cheeseburgers, and then how much the grand total was for each of these orders, and I can actually add how much the subtotal was for the cheeseburger and see the grand total of the total order. So basically, in Canada, in Ontario, I sold to Discmans, and they had the Discmans were worth $118, but the total order was $410 in this case. So this is a very in-depth analysis of what we were trying to do, and I think I can actually lock these two columns. Let's see. Yeah, I can actually freeze these two columns so I can see these when I'm scrolling as well. And I can freeze, I think I can freeze these two rows as well. So if we scroll down, we can see which city and state they belonged to. Let's see how to do that. So what did I just do? How did I just do that? Sorry. Again, I'm pretty new at this. Oh, it's from view. Okay. So from the menu bar, it's view. Oops. Let's just delete that. Okay. So from here, it's view and freeze. Freeze. So you can actually select and say up to current row, or just select two rows over here. So if I scroll down now, the city and state information is going to come with me as I scroll. So I hope that helps. I know a lot of people say, hey, we cannot, have a itemized list within Ragic. So this is a good workaround on doing that. So I can see all my products under each of their categories, and I can actually analyze what their totals are. So the reason I'm seeing a lot of zeros and the blank city and state is because I actually selected everything when I was generating this. So it's taking all these blank rows over here. So to avoid that, we can change the range. So this entire range was from A58 to M58, and if I went back to my pivot table, I think I can edit that. So it can go from A58 to M58, I guess. No, that just analyzes one row, so that's what I did wrong, I guess. Let's just select these and then generate a new one. So data, pivot table. What's the range over here? A1 to M58. So let me just apply that to what I had here. A1 to M58. So it's actually getting it diagonally, of course. So yeah, there we go. We don't get those weird blank things, and we have frozen the first two columns over here as well as the first two rows. So if I scroll down, I can see all the cities. So as you can see, Alberta, I made sales in 3 different cities, and it's displaying over here. Okay, any questions so far about this? I'm sure you guys are better than me in using like Google Sheets and different tabs and sheets. I'm actually not really an Excel expert, surprisingly. But yeah, there we go. So itemized list with each category with all the totals and where they have been sold. So if we actually add new data on our Ragic sheet, it's gonna be refreshed over here. So let's try that. So let's select someone that is in Alberta again, but from a different city. So not Brooks, Halkirk, or Red Deer in our sales. So let's go back to our database and create a new sales order for that to see how it changes things in our Google Sheet analysis thing. Sorry, I can't speak. So Alberta, let's see. Okay, there's someone from Viking, Alberta, and let's add a few food and drink items that they can buy. So let's say 5, 10, and 10. And let's save that data over here. And that's my sales order item. It's automatically been entered into, so these 3 you can see from my sales order 126005. It's gonna be in my sales trends sheet as 3 different line items because I added 3 different line items, and they're all in this one sales order that I just created for Anthony from Alberta Viking. So let's see how that corresponds here. I'm not sure if I have to refresh this. So let's just try. Let's just try seeing that again. Or do I refresh from here somewhere? Or perhaps I just delete this? Does anyone know a better way of doing this? So what I did was copy and paste again, and now I have those 3 from Alberta Viking. But if you know how to refresh this formula without me needing to delete and redo it again, then it would be very nice. I guess I could have tried like exiting and then re-entering again, but this basically should be able to refresh without you really prompting it. And you can see that Viking is added to my pivot table because I didn't change any of the settings, and I can basically see that their entries are under food and drinks over here, and then I can see their grand total compared to the subtotal over here for the items. So is that clear? I hope I did not go too fast in this case. And if anyone knows how to, refresh this import data thing, let's actually Google that very quickly. So import data, Google Sheets, refresh, I guess. So basically they're saying that it doesn't update on its own by default, so you can either write a script or use one of the scripts that people already wrote for these. And let's say what Google's help says. Sorry, this is the help forum where people discuss this. Oh, it's saying it refreshes every hour. And there's a workaround for the delay. Yeah. So basically, you can prompt this to refresh on its own, or wait an hour, or like analyze whatever's in there before the hour. So it always depends. I mean, you can always use filters on Ragic as well if you want a certain amount of data to be analyzed and then export through that filter. And that would help as well. But this is an immense help on analyzing your data, and I'm thinking you can apply this in a lot of ways. And hopefully, it would be helpful for you on looking up what you have in your data. I think you can also group by different rows and columns. I wanted to group all my products under their related category and then see city and state data. If I didn't want to see the city data but only the state, I can do that by just deleting the city from the criteria. Okay. And I think you can always, add more categories if you wanted to. This is just, I guess, quite easy to have a look at. All right, any questions so far? I know this is a little bit too much for newer users that we have over there, but I will make a guide about this as well. If you have any questions or software that you usually use for this type of analysis, we can try using that as well. We have a little bit more time before we need to end the webinar. So if you have an online software tool or whatnot that you can import data into, you can always use the publish to the web through Ragic and then import into that software. So I do know some software uses Zapier to do that. We also have a Zapier integration. So for the people who don't know what Zapier is, a Zapier is actually a third-party software that connects all your apps to each other. So not every app has an integration with Zapier, but we do. It's accessible through your tools menu over here and sync with your web app. And that will give you a place to connect to Zapier, and then through there you can use Ragic to populate some other software tools. For example, in our example in the documentation, we're using Trello. So Trello is a kind of board, a to-do list type of thing. So you can actually create a new record on Ragic, and that will create a note card on Trello, and that connection is being done by Zapier. So you can do that for a lot of different web apps, and there are some reporting tools with Zapier. So this is a guideline that they have over here. So the one formula import data is not being used here, but you're using a third-party software. But basically you can have a look and see if they have the reporting tool that you're using. They have a whole library on which apps are available through Zapier, and then you can have a look if you want to store your data in Ragic and then use Zapier to connect to your reporting tool. It doesn't need to be as a reporting tool. You can always do, bookkeeping, accounting on other tools like I think Mint and whatnot that can be connected to here. And well, if you have your invoices in Ragic, then they can post it directly to whatever accounting tool you're using, and then you can bill people through there. So the possibilities are pretty much endless. Through here, what we did is to analyze the data in a more different way. So if you wanted to create charts or graphs from this, you can do so as well. This one is pretty much very straightforward. What we did is to, analyze different rows and columns that we got through this spreadsheet, which is taking data with this formula, import data from Ragic. So you can basically have all the data you want in your database account in Ragic and then export it to other tools like this. So does anyone have any question about this topic? I know it's a little bit too much at the moment, but I hope this is very useful for you guys. Any questions, please write to me on the live chat. If not, I'll just end the webinar. And to make a note, again, by the way, if you don't see the live chat on the right side of your screen, it should be right below the video on the right side. And well, yeah, that's all I had to cover today. And I guess you can get creative with the charts. I'm not really familiar with the charts, but they're pretty straightforward to add the criteria that you needed, and analyze them by what you need to. It's usually only 2 points of data, so that might not be very useful in that case. Then you can generate a pivot table to analyze more data. Can you tell me how you refresh when linked to Dropbox, is what Margaret is saying. Well, our Dropbox integration is very different. I don't think it needs to be refreshed. It should be updating automatically. So when you add a new file to Dropbox, it should show up on Ragic and vice versa. Are you adding data through Ragic or through Dropbox? Because if you're using our Dropbox integration through the templates over here, let's have a look. So through Office Manager, Dropbox Document Management, so that's what you're using probably. And when you install this template, it gives you a sheet that basically has all your Dropbox documents that are in a folder. And if you have folders within that folder, then it shows you which folder that is in. That, from my memory, I don't think it needs to be refreshed by your prompting. It should show the documents that are in your Dropbox automatically. But if you're having trouble with that, then email support@ragic.com and they'll have a look, because I haven't been working on the Dropbox one for almost 2 years now, so I don't know what they changed. But I mean, you don't need to use the Zapier integration for Dropbox, because we already have this thing, and I think you're using this one. So once you set up, basically through your sheet, you can choose to add to Dropbox, I think, by selecting the folder. If that's not the case, I think this one was more useful for fine-tuning who you share documents to, because okay, so for the people who don't use Dropbox, it's a file management tool, and you organize your files in folders just like in your computer, but it's shared on the cloud, and you can assign sharing for each folder, kind of like Google Drive, but you can't really fine-tune what sharing is being done for each person. So you either have to share the whole folder with them or not, or like you have to do files one by one, and Ragic gives you more control on what each people can do with those files. And of course, the comments, history, approval, whatnot within Ragic can be applied to that sheet that you're using. So the sheet shows you your files from Dropbox, and you can share them separately if you want to. I think, Margaret, what you are trying to do might be if it's not refreshing automatically, then maybe ask support, because I'm not sure how often the refreshing is done. It might be every single day if it's not updating automatically, or you might need to clear your cache of your browser or something, but I'm not really sure, so it's best to ask support first. Again, so the Dropbox integration is directly through one of our templates. It's through Start, Install Templates, and from the first one you're in, so it's the one we're already in, Office Manager, and if you scroll down, the fifth one is Dropbox Document Management, and that will give you a connection that will basically you should be able to set the access rights and link your Dropbox, and this will go to an entire like request authorization thing for your Dropbox, and if you click allow, then it's gonna grab one folder. So I actually have an empty Dropbox folder with my Ragic email address, and you can basically choose a folder if you have folders, or create a new folder to set this up. Margaret, I think it refreshes automatically and you really don't need to do anything else. But if you have problems, just let us know, because this is an integration we did quite a long time ago. So it might need some fresh perspective and feedback. If you have any issues, just let us know. Basically, this gives you a folder to pick. So you basically need a folder. It can't pick the main folder of Dropbox, so it can't be the root folder for you programmers out there. You need to have folders, and that folder can have different folders inside it, and it will show you which folder your files are from. Okay, I think that's all about integration today, and hopefully that has been useful. Does anyone else have any questions? If not, let me tell you, if you have questions after experimenting with Ragic, next week on Tuesday, again at the same time in 1:30 p.m. EST, we're going to have an office hour webinar. So if you have questions, you can ask them there, and then we're going to build prototypes according to user questions. And this webinar repeats every month, so you don't have to worry about being an experienced user or a newer user. We always go through all the questions and answer as much as we can. If you have questions, you can email me beforehand at berrin@ragic.com or support@ragic.com about your questions that you want answered in the office hour webinar. And on Thursday the 25th, we're going to have a talk about data cleanup and preventing duplicates in Ragic. Data cleanup, I know a lot of people get stuck in this part when they're first organizing their database, or they're trying to migrate their database, or they're just wanting to have cleaner data and make sure there are no duplicates in their info. So you can join that one. I'm going to talk about cleaning up data and give some tips and tricks on doing so. And basically keeping clean data, preventing duplicates, but make sure that you always have key fields for each of your records. There's a reason why I add a number for each client, and a number for each product, and a sales order number for each sales order. So you can see that I have a Gary Sweeney over here. That doesn't mean there's only one Gary Sweeney. There might be a Gary Sweeney that lives in Victoria, BC instead of Ontario, Corona. It doesn't mean that the Gary Sweeney I have in my database that lives in Victoria, BC might not be the same guy with another Gary Sweeney in Victoria, BC. So people can have the same names. They can have the same full name. You never know. So it's best to identify people through a number that is unique to them. And sometimes stores do this with the phone number. Sometimes people do this with the email number. But bear in mind, they might not be unique either, because some people share their email addresses with their spouses, or they might not have a landline at all, or they might not have a cell phone and they might give you their landline, and then they share it with 5 other people in the same house. You never know. And there is always John Smith and John Smith Jr. and John Smith II. You never know. So it's always best to identify people with an ID number. So this might not be the phone number that's ideal. This might be an employee number if you are an employer. And it's best to identify each of these records from each other. with a unique ID that makes sense to you. So I'm not saying that you should always use auto generate by Ragic, but you can always pick something that makes sense for you. So if you are in real estate, I know that a lot of people use MLS numbers, but I've heard from real estate agents that properties can have the same MLS number, but they can be divider properties that have the same MLS number. So just pick something that makes sense for you. If you do not have one, then assign a number for each record. All right, so that is one of the tips I am going to talk about during the data cleanup webinar. But if you're newer to database management, please consider using a unique ID for each of your records. It also makes sense when you are linking data to each other. So when things get confusing, it's always best to have an ID number to identify different records from each other so that you don't get confused and you always have something in your hand that says where it comes from. Okay, so yeah, that is on the 25th. Again, on the 16th, we're going to have a Q&A kind of webinar, and I would be glad to see you all over there. Alright, I hope this was helpful for you. I'm going to do a proper guideline on how to use Publish to the Web. We have a very short documentation file in our user guide, and I know that might not be enough, so I hope that the people who need that will come back and watch this webinar recording. Alright, thank you all very much for joining. This will be the end of our webinar. If you have any further questions, you can email me at support@ragic.com. Thank you all for joining, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.